Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Rory McIlroy finally completed the career slam with a dramatic win at Augusta. Also, the Clippers shocked the Warriors and slipped out of the play-in tournament, and the Wolves surprised even their own fans by making the top 6. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
A historic Sunday at the Masters is capped off with Rory McIlroy securing his championship. Here to talk about that with me, you might have heard him on the show before. It's Peter Bukowski of Locked On Sports Today. And Peter, it was a wild one at Augusta. You have Rory with a chance to win it on the 18th hole. He ends up having to go to a playoff after choking that, but then he gets it all together and he gets his green jacket. He's only the 6th golfer to complete the career Grand Slam, his first major since 2014. I mean,
Incredible.
It's a feel-good story for a lot of people involved here, but you watching this all unfold, I mean, what are your emotions? Because it was a high-charge stakes thing here that Justin Rose and Rory McIlroy competed for.
Yeah, Kevin, this is weird being in this seat on this show. I don't think I've ever been a guest on Locked On Sports Today. And it is a fitting moment because Rory McIlroy has never won the Masters, despite the fact that he's had a number of incredible opportunities. And he does it. I mean, let me just start here, Kevin. More people have been to the moon than have won the men's Grand Slam in golf. That is the rarefied air. We are talking, not to gild the lily on the metaphor, but like that is the sort of rarefied air we are talking about here. And he almost didn't win it like 16 times in this round alone. And that is the part of Rory McIlroy that I think has made him such a compelling figure here in golf over the last decade. You mentioned, hasn't won it in over 10 years. And he's had opportunities here at the Masters, has had opportunities at other major championships, the last US Open at Pinehurst #2, multiple times on the back nine, had the lead, frankly, gacked it away, if we're being 100% honest about it. LA Country Club, multiple putts inside 8 feet to tie or take the lead against Wyndham Clark, and he can't do it. And it started to feel for Rory McIlroy like it was just never going to happen. And at one point, I was watching with my family and I turned to my wife and I said, if he doesn't win this, it feels like he will never do it. Like if he blows this with a 4-shot lead at one point, he comes out absolutely blazing on the front. And you're just like, this is his tournament to win. No one has ever won the Masters with 2 double bogeys. He makes double bogey at 1, double bogey on 13. And that wedge that he hit into 13, I thought he had the championship won on 12. When he hit the green on 12, because we remember Jordan Spieth, that wasn't that long ago. And to just lay sod over shot after shot at the 12 is something that we've seen happen before. So once he hit the green, I was like, there's no way it doesn't happen. To have to go to the playoff, in a lot of ways, it's just sort of fitting Rory McIlroy form. He has not made it easy on himself. And yet you saw it on the last hole. He makes the putt on 18 in the playoff after missing a shorty on 18 in regulation. And he falls over in tears. And it's just, he's laughing and crying at the same time. And I have to tell you, I bet there are a lot of golf fans around my age, like millennial golf fans, who felt the same way. And I have to tell you, in my house, it got a little dusty. Kevin, I'm just being honest, because to see someone who has been through it, to reach the mountaintop early on, to be the favored son in golf, and then to struggle for years and years, I think it humanized him. And to come to this moment is such a special thing in golf. For him to achieve this just feels right. And now, I mean, we saw this with Xander Schauffele a year ago. He won one and then he won another one right back to back. And it feels like that could be this moment for Rory McIlroy.
you mentioned the pure raw emotion we saw after sinking the hole on 18 in the playoff. And you go back to the 18th hole originally where he ends up missing that putt to force the playoff. You were talking about it. It's like, if it doesn't happen now, it might never happen. And when he ends up missing that, I mean, was your thought process just like, oh, here we go again?
I mean, it's earlier than that, frankly, because you go back to 13 and he lays up, which I thought they did an excellent job of laying out on the broadcast and saying, look, he played aggressive on the par fives early on with the lead at the Masters. He could have played, a little bit more conservatively. Like that's probably what Tiger in 2019 would have done, but he played aggressive. And then on 13, he played it a little bit more conservatively, laid back, gave himself what we assumed was a good wedge distance into 13. And he just bladed it. He just hit it off the toe. There's no other way to say it. The pressure of the moment got to him. He makes double bogey on 13. He makes bogey on 14. And all of a sudden he's walking off 14 green behind in the Masters. And he had just had a 3-shot lead. So it is like, that was when I went, uh-oh, like this is bad. He comes back and immediately hits that incredible iron shot into 15 green. That felt like the moment. Make this eagle putt and you have the Masters. But he couldn't do it. He missed it. He makes birdie. Okay, like that's good. He hits this shot into 16. Beautiful shot. Misses the putt. Then he hits, I think, the shot of his life into 17. He's asking for it to go. There's a little false front there. If he doesn't carry that ball, if he carries it 3 inches shorter on 17, it's back off the front. But he carries it just over the ridge. It funnels down and he makes birdie. And that felt like the moment he had won the Masters. He's standing in the middle of 18 fairway with a wedge in his hand, 125 yards out, and does the same thing. Hits it off the toe into the sand trap. Can't get up and down to force the playoff. It felt in that moment, in all of those moments, like he was going to lose and then he was going to win. And that has been Rory McIlroy over his whole career. That's what it has been like to be a fan. And I think, frankly, Kevin, it is what brought so many people over to his side, because early on he won at Congressional, the U.S. Open, the first one, in such convincing fashion that I think there were some people, maybe myself included, I can't remember that far that back, but going, I don't know about, like, I can't cheer for this guy, right? Like, this is he's coming for Tiger's crown. I can't be into this. And he had to struggle for so long that I think he brought so many fans to his side to go, I know what it's like to feel that way. I know what it's like to struggle. You had so much promise. And that's why this tournament is the perfect microcosm of Rory McIlroy's career for the last 10 years, not the first 5-6 years of his career, but the last 10. And that's what made this all so fitting here, Kevin. It was really it made you want to puke and made you want to, sing Alleluias multiple times in the round. And that's what it's been like to cover Rory McIlroy, to see Rory McIlroy over the last 10 years. And so it makes sense that would be the way that he gets this epic monkey off his back and does something, that only a handful, you can count on one hand the number of people who have done this, and he is now one of them.
Stay up to date all year on the biggest sports stories by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Clippers pulled off a dramatic win to slip out of the play-in. Before we get to that, we go around the NBA on the final day of the regular season. There's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup, but finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I found Game Time. With last-minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as the beginning of the game gets closer, so you can score amazing seats at a great price. You can also take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. The Atlanta Hawks beat the Orlando Magic to head into the play-in with some momentum.
Shot the ball well in this game all the way across, which made it a little bit easier. If you are a regular on the podcast, you will note that I usually go into pretty deep dive fashion on, what went well and the machinations and all of that. It's harder to do that in this game because just the way that this laid out, like the intensity level wasn't there. Like the Hawks won this game largely on the strength of their ability to attack the rim all the way through. Like they got to the line, not very, very often, but they fished around the rim very well in this game. They shot well from 3-point range as well. Other than Keaton Wallace, who was great everywhere else in this game, the Hawks shot the ball great from three. There was 17 of 40 from 3-point range, and that included 16 of 34 for everybody except for Keaton in this one. The bench was lights out, 3-point shooting, 5 of 8 from Toppin, 3 of 7 from Garrison, 3 of 7 from Plowden. Veet made his only 2 shots of the game from 3-point range, so they made a bunch of shots. 58 points in the paint for the Hawks in this game. They also ran a lot. 26 fast break points for the Hawks to comfortably lead the Magic in that category. And on the glass, it was basically like they played to a draw to some degree.
The Pistons made an impressive last-second comeback to force overtime, but ultimately fell to the Bucks to end the regular season.
So the run was great. I mean, an 8-0 run in 42 seconds. That's insane. Tie the game. I'm sorry, let me try that again. It was the 3 3-pointers, so a 9-1 run. So the 8-point differential erases that 8-point lead for the Milwaukee Bucks, and so impressive. It's role players, right? Because obviously no Cade in this one, and the rest of the starters had been sat at that point, and so it's Lindy Waters and Bobby Clintman that are making the big shots down the stretch to force overtime. So we got to give them a lot of credit. But we know what happened in overtime. The Bucks pull ahead, and I mean, speaking of giving credit, how about Pat Connaughton off for the Milwaukee Bucks, a career high 43 points? Are you kidding me? 16 of 29 shooting. It was his career high, and pretty impressive game for him. 40 points to go along with the 11 rebounds. And, oh, by the way, 5 assists. That's from Pat Connaughton, and they were chanting MVP for him when he was at the free throw line late.
The last day of the NBA regular season always has some crazy storylines, and among the craziest was the game between the Clippers and the Warriors that had major playoff implications. Here to talk about that with me is Darian Vaziri of Locked On Clippers. Darian, Clippers and Warriors playing for a playoff spot. The loser would have had some crazy thing going on, and for the Warriors, this loss to the Clippers dropped them to the play-in, whereas the Clippers, they get the 5 seed with the win. They'll go up against the Denver Nuggets in the first round. Let's start with the game first, because for a game that has so many implications, I mean, this game was back and forth, close the entire way. Clippers end up getting the job done, though. Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, dynamic duo. Final score in this one, 124-119 in overtime. How'd the Clippers get the job done down the stretch here?
Well, I mean, it was really a game of runs. It felt like, in the first half, we were down most of the game and then chipped away at it and got the lead going into halftime. And then the second half was just a neck and neck battle, and you knew it was going to come down to the wire. So it's usually in the NBA when you have a game come down to the wire, which star is going to get you out of it. And it just felt as though we had a big three and they had a dynamic duo, and their dynamic duo being Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, who each scored 30 points themselves, Steph with 36, Jimmy with 30. And we had a very similar kind of thing with Kawhi Leonard scoring 33 and James Harden scoring 39. But I think the outlier is Ivica Zubac, and him having 22 points, 17 rebounds, which just feels like par for the course for him these days. And he's had an amazing matchup against the Warriors all season long. They still haven't really addressed that they don't really have a big man. Their tallest guy is Quentin Post, but this is a guy who's a rookie right now. If he's your only 7-footer, you're going to struggle against big teams, and we're not necessarily a big team, but Ivica Zubac is a presence, and Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, these guys are just too small for him. So even though Brandon Podziemski got 19 for them, the 22 of Ivica Zubac plus his defense, it just really feels like, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think we're just a better team than the Warriors. I know the regular season series backs that up, but you kind of have to throw that out the window because a lot of those games were played without Jimmy Butler. Actually, every single one of those games until the game today on Sunday was without Jimmy Butler. And then, of course, Kawhi Leonard is the first time he's played against the Warriors this season. But I just think when you look at the rosters, I think the Clippers are just a little better. I know that might be my bias talking, but I really don't think it is, because I wouldn't sit here and tell you that the Oklahoma City Thunder are worse than us. But I think that the Clippers are better than the Warriors, and James Harden's overtime stretch. I think that's the major takeaway for me is he made some big shots in overtime, 2 threes to begin it. And that kind of propelled the Clippers to taking the lead, and one big defensive possession against Buddy Hield, forcing a missed 3. And from that point forward, it felt like we had him, but it was really about the big 3 of Kawhi, Zoo, and Harden, who continue to just be amazing. Early on in the season, it was Norm, Harden, and Zubats, and now it's Kawhi, Harden, and Zubats. So it feels like we have 3 stars, man.
Zubats has been incredible for them this season. You know, right at the beginning of March, there was that 3-game loss streak. It was Lakers, Phoenix. And then there were a couple of other 3-game losing streaks in between there. But since really the beginning of March, Clippers have been playing lights out basketball. They end their season on an 8-game win streak. What is it from what you've seen really post All-Star break that has separated the Clippers from a lot of the other teams in the NBA?
It's actually not post All-Star break. It's exactly what you said. It was the 3 games in a row that we lost to the Lakers and the Suns. Ever since that Phoenix game, the Clippers have gone 18-3 to end the season, which is, you got to be thinking that might be the hottest team in the NBA right now. And it started with James Harden scoring 50 points against the Detroit Pistons on a random night at Intuit Dome during the week. It felt as though we were hitting that slide where we kind of I said it, I'm quoting myself. The honeymoon is over with this team. That's what I said after that Suns game. But I guess the best was yet to come. And it really all starts with, I mean, yes, James Harden having that performance, but Kawhi Leonard hitting stride and looking like that all-NBA player that we're so used to seeing, but also not used to seeing depending on his health. The fact that he's back, was ramping up, and eventually got to playing like that all-NBA version, heading into the playoffs healthy. You always knew when Kawhi was healthy with the defensive personnel of this team, and, you know, with Norm having the season he's having and Zubats having the season that he's having, that this team could be as good, if not maybe even a little bit better, just based on fit than last year's team that had an amazing stretch where they went 26-5 at one point of the season. I'll take 18-3 going into the playoffs with a better defense this season and no Paul George. It feels like there's less confusion in terms of roles with this team. It's Kawhi, Harden, Zoo, and then everybody else.
Speaking of the playoffs, mentioned at the top there, Clippers will play the Nuggets in the first round, 4-5. Nuggets are in a bit of a precarious and kind of uncharted waters here, firing their championship coach 3 games before the playoffs start. Now, they've won those last 3 games, but still, you don't know what you're going to get with the Nuggets. Obviously, they have Nikola Jokic, but the defense for Denver has kind of fallen off a cliff this year. How do you like the matchup for the Clippers and some of the things that Denver presents?
Well, if you had asked me 2-3 weeks ago, I would have said, even though we've played well against them in the regular season, it's not a matchup that I necessarily want. You don't want to play against the best player in the world and a team with championship pedigree. And a lot of those guys, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Jokic, all part of that 2023 championship team. But as you said, this is a team that's in a little bit of disarray. I know they've gotten it together a little bit with the last couple of games of the season, but you're going into a postseason with a different coach than you've had all season long. This Denver team has been, streaky this season. They've been good most of it. They had a really rough stretch recently. Of course, Jokic is Jokic, another potential MVP campaign. But it's really about, just like it kind of was last year against the Minnesota Timberwolves, can they get that Jamal Murray from 2023? And I think the Clippers actually have a lot of guys that we can throw at Jamal Murray. Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., Kawhi Leonard. So in the regular season, and Zubats is a very solid Jokic defender. Of course, nobody can guard Jokic one-on-one, but in terms of size, in terms of strength, he's a great counter to Jokic. And then maybe he can make him work a little bit on the defensive end as well. So, and the main thing with the Clippers is James Harden actually has been the biggest reason why they've done well against the Nuggets in the last 2 years. Because before the last 2 years, essentially before we got James Harden, we struggled against the Nuggets basically as bad as the Lakers have struggled against the Nuggets. They owned us. They absolutely owned us. But James Harden, he creates a little bit of issues for their perimeter defense that has definitely taken a hit with the loss of Bruce Brown last year and then now the loss of Kevin Tavius Caldwell-Pope this year. So besides Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Aaron Gordon, and Russell Westbrook, 2 of those guys are serious offensive problems at times because of their lack of shooting, and Russ and Peyton Watson, they're the only good defenders on that team in that rotation. And the Clippers are one of the best defenses in the league. So I'm not saying that we're going to win for sure, But every Clipper fan I spoke to today at the Intuit Dome watch party was saying we're going to win the series. Of course, there's a lot of homerism there, but I wasn't feeling great going into that Mavericks series last season because of Kawhi's health. But for that very same reason, because of Kawhi's health, I'm feeling pretty good going to this series. I've got Clippers in 6, but it's going to be the marquee series of the first round, no matter what the play-in matchups end up being. This is the matchup of this year's NBA playoffs first round. And quite frankly, the Clippers are always involved in the most important first round series because we're always like number 4. So you're playing against number 5. So it's just how it goes.
Stay up to date all year on the Los Angeles Clippers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Clippers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Wolves are a surprise top 6 team in the West after their start to the season. The Minnesota Timberwolves didn't exactly get off to the hottest start. They have plenty of talent, but took a while to put it all together. As Wolves postcast hosts Luke Inman and Jack Borman discussed after the final game of the season, they're ecstatic the Wolves turned things around.
They took care of business, beat a bad team, secure this top 6 seed that I think, Jack, 2-3 months ago, if you told a lot of fans or whoever it may be the Timberwolves did secure this top 6 seed, a lot of people would have said, no way, that's nuts.
Yeah, they very well could have. And I think, too, that's just where, the Wolves also, had played a tougher schedule at that point than a lot of these other teams had. And, did good work to make sure that, they finished, 17-3 or 17-4 over their last 21. So certainly just a good close to the season for the Timberwolves. No question about it. I think for them, it's, again, you can't really focus on who's in front of you. You just got to go out there and take care of business. And it's pretty funny that 3 of those losses were abjectly horrible losses coming down the stretch of the season. But again, you just gotta get enough of those wins to make sure that you're in the top 6 and then just kind of get into the playoffs and let the chips fall as they may. And certainly that's kind of where the Wolves are at right now. But really nice to see both Ant and Rudy step up in major ways in the most important game of the year.
Well said. They're 16 games above 500 as well. This is the first time they've been 16 games above 500 all season, by the way. 49-33, that's their final regular season standings, if you will, for this season. When you think back to like all the turmoil, all the drama, all the early struggles, trying to mesh so many new faces and new places together that this team really had to start the year, and then it continued with a couple big injuries as well. Again, if I were to tell you they ended the season 16 games above 500 and ended with 49 wins, I know it's not what a lot of people predicted before the season, but what would you have thought if I would have said that again halfway, maybe 2-3 months into the year?
Yeah, I would have said that was a great recovery and that they must have, made me look a little better than they made me look at the start of the year, right? I thought the Wolves would go over their win total of like 52.5, just because, I thought that they could be a more balanced team. But, again, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle for the way that they were able to, kind of turn around some of their early struggles and, kind of settle into their roles and be really, really good players for the Timberwolves over the last, really since both of them came back. I mean, especially for Randle shooting, dang near 40% from 3 since he's returned from injury. So I think those two guys have a ton to do with it. And then, obviously everyone else staying healthy is super important and, something that everyone obviously needed on this Timberwolves team. So huge, second half of the season for those two guys especially. And then again for Ant and Rudy to continue kind of growing in their respective roles. Ant as, kind of the offensive engine, and then Rudy just really dominating on the interior, especially these last 2 or 3 weeks has been awesome.
Chris Paul set a record on Sunday in his 20th season in the NBA. Paul started all 82 games. The previous record was held by Utah's John Stockton when he started all 82 games in his 19th season. When asked about it, Paul said, quote, "I was talking to my wife about this. When you're sort of in it, you're not really thinking about it. It's like, okay, it's game 30. Okay, it's game 40 something. It's game such and such." If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On shows, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we are here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, who is the most dangerous team in the play-in tournament? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.